We're going to start the presentation. I'm just going to go with it. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for the public hearing regarding State Project 158-214. This hearing focuses on the environmental assessment and environmental impact evaluation for the William F. Cribari Memorial Bridge here in Westport. My name is James Barrows, and I am the project manager with the Connecticut Department of Transportation Division of Bridges. We appreciate you taking the time to participate in this essential part of the project development and environmental review process. Our agenda for this evening is designed to provide a comprehensive overview of where the project stands. We will begin by introducing tonight's speakers, followed by opening remarks from the Town of Westport and the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Then we'll dive into the technical and regulatory core of the meeting, the NEPA and SEPA hearing purpose, the project's purpose and needs, and a detailed look at the alternatives that were analyzed. I will also ask that you put your phones on silent. These alternatives were developed through a collaborative effort by the Connecticut Department of Transportation and a Project Advisory Committee, or PACT. We will conclude with a cost comparison and, most importantly, a public comment session where we will like to hear directly from you. Before we begin the presentation, I'd like to introduce the team that's going to be presenting tonight. From the Department of Transportation, we will have Deputy Commissioner Leisha King, our moderator, Amy Stula, and Kathleen Erickson from our Division of Rights-of-Way. We will also be joined by First Selectman Kevin Christie and Dr. Alex Maxwell from Fuss & O'Neill. I will now hand it over to First Selectman Christie for his opening remarks.
Thanks, James. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Christie, First Selectman, and thank you for being here tonight. I certainly want to start by acknowledging the level of interest and engagement from the community on the future of our bridge, the Cribari Bridge. It's clear how much we all deeply care about this topic. Tonight's an important step in the process. This is a Connecticut Department of Transportation public hearing, and it's an opportunity to hear directly from DOT about the project, where things stand, and an opportunity to ask questions. DOT's mission is to improve lives through transportation, and I know this team is here to listen and engage as part of the process, and this is also an opportunity for us to do the same. I would encourage everyone to review the environmental assessment and to use tonight as an opportunity to engage in constructive and informed ways so that we're all working off the same set of facts. Now it's Westport. There's a range of ideas and perspectives in the community, and that's to be expected. The goal is to make sure those perspectives are heard in a way that's respectful and grounded in the information, not only tonight, but as the appropriate path for continued engagement is determined going forward. And with that, thank you again for being here. There is I see a bunch of people standing in the back. You're welcome to stand, but there are a number of open seats sprinkled in if you'd like to find a seat. And with that, I'll turn it back over to James and the DOT team. And thank you again for being here tonight.
Thank you very much. And now I'd like to hand it over to the Connecticut Department of Transportation, Deputy Commissioner Leisha King.
Thanks, James, and thanks, Kevin. So, good evening. My name is Leisha King. I'm Deputy Commissioner at ConnDOT. And on behalf of the entire team, we're really thrilled to see so many people engaged and interested in the future of the Cribari Bridge. Whether you're here in person or watching from home, we're really glad you could make it. As many of you know, I grew up in Westport and later returned to live here. My son grew up here as well, from preschool at the Y downtown until he graduated from Staples in 2022. I now live right next door in Norwalk. I want you to know that this project is important to me and it is important to the Department of Transportation. I've heard a lot of conversation around town. I've read about it in the press, online, about the relationship between ConnDOT and the residents. Some have expressed concern that CONDOT is imposing its will upon the town and ignoring community input. I really hope that what you hear tonight will help address those concerns. CONDOT is not some large bureaucracy up in Newington. We are a team of dedicated professionals who work for you. We serve the very same residents that your local elected officials represent. Also, we have more than enough work to do around the state. We have nothing to gain from doing a project that residents oppose. We have nothing to gain from doing a project that is bigger, more expensive, or more time-consuming. But we also have some other responsibilities. We have a responsibility to make sure that our bridges and infrastructure are safe for all users. We also have a responsibility to the taxpayers of Connecticut and the United States to use taxpayer funds responsibly. What we're here to do is to balance those concerns and responsibilities to find the best solution, a solution that works for the town while also ensuring we have a safe, reliable, and resilient crossing of the river. The last time CONDOT worked on this bridge, I was in high school. I remember hearing my parents, teachers, and neighbors debating it. The concerns that I heard then are the same concerns that we are hearing now. I also know that we all care about having a safe bridge, a bridge that fits well with the character of the neighborhood, a bridge that can endure future storms, and a bridge that allows better connections for drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists, all while respecting the history of one of the oldest bridges in our state. We're here again, 35 years later, because routine inspections have identified the need for significant repairs. We also need better protections for drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists. I remember teaching my son how to drive and the white knuckle moments going over that bridge with him, worrying that he was going to sideswipe someone or lose a mirror. I know that many people in this room have had the same experience navigating this very narrow, nearly 140-year-old structure. There is no question that this bridge requires serious attention, and we want to approach that work thoughtfully and responsibly, and that means involving you. While this issue has literally been around for decades, it's hard to believe, but we are at a very, very early step in this process. There was a lot of work to be done before we got to today. That work was focused on gathering and analyzing data, exploring options, and identifying the advantages and challenges of each of those options. That work was done so that CONDOT, the public, and our federal partners would have the information that we need to start discussions and make decisions. We're now at the point where we're ready to share that information and to hear the response from you. We're also aware of a petition circulating that calls for greater federal oversight of the process, as well as questions about some of the smaller meetings that we had leading up to this point. I hope the presentation tonight will help clarify those issues as well. CONDOT has worked closely with our partners at the Federal Highway Administration throughout this process. The environmental assessment, environmental impact evaluation that we're here presenting tonight follows all applicable federal and state requirements. Those federal regulations define the topics that we analyze and the topics that we report on. They also define how we receive public input. The regulations require that the reports that we just completed be publicly posted in the Environmental Monitor and that we leave public comment open for 45 days. We are fully in compliant with those requirements. But we also wanted to go further. First, rather than developing initial concepts in isolation, we convened a project advisory committee which met a handful of times. This consisted of community stakeholders identified by the first select person, and they provided us early feedback about the types of issues and priorities the community cares about. That input helped ensure the alternatives we are presenting tonight reflect some of the community's concerns. For example, you will see that all of the alternatives continue to consider a trust structure. They seek to limit property impacts. They seek to maintain a navigable channel, and they seek to respond to concerns about traffic. These meetings were not decision-making meetings. Rather, they helped our team better understand what matters to stakeholders prior to presenting options to the broader public. Furthermore, in addition to publication of the report and a comment period, we elected to add an in-person public hearing. That's what we're here doing tonight. Because we wanted to allow an opportunity for stakeholders to give verbal comment and to add a public information session both before and after the presentation, which would allow residents to ask questions and to interact directly with our staff to get their questions and concerns considered and answered in real time. So many of you have already visited the project boards out in the lobby this evening and interacted with members of our team. And I hope you heard from them the same that you're going to hear from me now. And it's something that I want to be very clear about. CONDOT has not made a decision about the future of the bridge, whether it means a major rehabilitation of an existing structure, a full replacement, or nothing at all. We are looking carefully at all of the options presented tonight, including costs, traffic impacts, and the complexity of performing construction on an active historic bridge over a navigable waterway. Regardless of which alternative is ultimately selected, the purpose of this project remains the same: to address the bridge's structural and functional deficiencies while safely accommodating drivers, cyclists, pedestrians, and marine traffic. Whichever path we ultimately take, we are committed to working collaboratively with Westport residents, businesses, and elected officials on design decisions, mitigation measures, traffic and detour plans, and more. We will work with you every step of the way. Tonight is your opportunity to learn where this project stands, ask questions, and share your perspective. We want to hear from you. You have until April 17th to submit formal comments, and we take every submission seriously. You can comment online, by phone, by mail or email, or here in person tonight. The easiest, most direct way is to scan the QR code that we will have available on the screen at the end of the presentation and enter your comment on the project comment form. We will also have a station set up here in the front of the auditorium if you wish to leave a recorded comment for the official record at the end of the presentation. And if you would like to chat informally after the presentation and ask more questions of our staff, they will be back at the boards out in the lobby. This is a significant project for Westport and for the entire region, and your feedback will shape how we move forward. Thank you again for joining us tonight, and I will now turn it over to the project team to walk through the results of the environmental assessment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, First Selectman Christie and Deputy Commissioner King. So I will start off with some of the public comment section, and then I'm going to hand it over to Amy, our moderator, to kind of explain a little bit more. So it's important to emphasize that tonight's hearing is a proactive approach by the DOT. While a formal public hearing is not mandated under NEPA or SEPA for this type of assessment, we believe that direct interaction with the Westport community is vital for a project of this significance. The notice of availability for the environmental assessment was published on February 17th, which triggered a 60-day comment period, which was longer than the 45-day minimum required by law. This period is your window to provide formal input that will be responded to in the final environmental documents. Tonight is one of many ways that you can participate in that process. At this point, I'm going to hand the floor over to our moderator, Amy, who will walk us through the next portion of the presentation and how to provide more comments. Amy?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amy Stula. I'm from the Connecticut Department of Transportation. I will serve as the moderator for tonight's public hearing. As James mentioned, we are meeting with you this evening in order to discuss the environmental assessment, environmental impact evaluation of Project 158-214, the rehabilitation or replacement of the William F. Cribari Memorial Bridge, bridge number 1349, which is Route 136 over the Saugatuck River in Westport. Our goal tonight for this public hearing is to afford a full opportunity for public participation in the environmental impact evaluation, EA, or the EIE prepared for this project. We encourage open discussion of any views and comments you, the community, may have with regard to this project. This public hearing is being conducted in accordance with the Connecticut Department of Transportation's policy on public involvement, public hearings, and in accordance with the latest version of the Public Involvement Guidance Manual. Documents related to this project are available for public inspection and copying at the Connecticut Department of Transportation, Westport Town Hall, Westport Library, FHWA Connecticut Division Office, and at the Westport, Connecticut Council of Governments Office. I will now discuss the format for tonight's hearing. I will then turn the podium over to our presenters. I will then moderate the formal comment portion of the hearing at the comment table. For your information, our presentations should take approximately 60 minutes to complete. My intent tonight is to conduct a fair and orderly hearing tonight by following a particular format. We would appreciate your patience during my remarks, as well as the presentation to follow, by holding your remarks and comments until this portion of the hearing has been completed. We will be happy to remain here this evening until everyone has had a reasonable opportunity to provide their comments. You may submit your comments on the comment form, scanning the QR code, sending an email to James Barrows, calling the voicemail box and leaving a voicemail message, or signing up to give a verbal comment later this evening. All of these submissions carry as much weight as a transcribed verbal testimony received here tonight when the transcript is reviewed. As a result of information you might learn at tonight's hearing, you may wish to make additional comments on the project. Written statements or exhibits may be mailed or delivered to the attention of Mr. James Barrows. This information is also in the handout available when you entered the room tonight. The deadline for receipt of comment on this proposal is April 17th, 2026. Written statements or exhibits must be postmarked by the state and must be reproducible on black and white, not larger than 8.5 by 11-inch paper. This information will be made part of the public hearing record and will be considered in the same regard as oral statements. I will be taking formal verbal comments at the comment table tonight after the presentation. The recording equipment has been set up at the comment table, and if you wish to make a statement, please come to the comment table after I read your name from the sign-up sheet. For those individuals who have a prepared statement, you may read it into the record, if you so desire. However, if the statement is lengthy, you are asked to offer a written copy of the statement for the record and give a brief summary of its contents. Such attachments to the record carry as much weight as a transcribed verbal testimony received here tonight when the transcript is reviewed. You may also submit comments by scanning the QR code on the screen, emailing Mr. James Barrows, or calling the voicemail box and leaving a voicemail statement. If you have filled out one of the comment forms, please hand them directly to me before you leave this evening at the comment table. If you wish to speak this evening and have not signed up, the sign-up sheet will be at the entrance during the presentation. There is a 3-minute time limit on all first-time speakers. There will be no yielding of your time to other speakers. Your time is for your own comments. If, after all first-time speakers have finished, anyone would like the opportunity to speak again, an additional 2 minutes of time will be allotted for this purpose. Title 6. No person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. Next slide. The Connecticut DOT operates its programs and services without regard to race, color, and national origin in accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Any person who believes she or he has been aggrieved by any unlawful discriminatory practice under the Title VI may file a complaint with the Connecticut DOT. At this point, I will now turn the podium over to Dr. Alex Maxwell, Project Manager with Fussin O'Neill.
Good evening. Thanks, Amy. I'll next provide an overview of the NEPA and SEPA environmental review process, in addition to highlighting the purpose of tonight's public hearing. So the purpose of the hearing is twofold. First, to provide an overview of the environmental assessment, or EA, and environmental impact evaluation, EIE, that were developed as part of the NEPA and SEPA process. Secondly, to provide an opportunity, importantly, as mentioned earlier, for the public to provide comment on the EA-EIE document. During this public hearing, We will provide an overview of the project and its purpose and need, a review of the project alternatives, a summary of the environmental review and cost analysis, and then importantly, provide an opportunity for public comment. After the public hearing, CONDOT will prepare responses to the substantive comments and issues raised on the EA-EIE, and these responses will also be made available to the public before CONDOT makes a decision on any next steps. So NEPA. NEPA stands for the National Environmental Policy Act, and the principal or essential elements of the NEPA environmental review process include an assessment of social, economic, and environmental impacts of a proposed action or project, an analysis of the range of reasonable alternatives to the proposed project based on the applicant's defined purpose and need statement, a consideration of appropriate impact mitigation, and then interagency participation, public involvement, including opportunities to comment, and then importantly, documentation and discourse. SEPA stands for the Connecticut Environmental Policy Act, and it provides a complementary environmental review process to NEPA, and by design, it establishes a project assessment process to help CONDOT identify and review proposed actions which may significantly affect the environment. It also provides the public with the opportunity to inform the project decision-making. Now I'll provide a brief overview of the EA-EIE document, including a note on the included programmatic Section 4F evaluation. So what is the EA-EIE? The EA-EIE is a joint federal and state document that's developed to inform the public and also FHWA and CONDOT decision makers on the potential impacts of a proposed project. It's designed to help FHWA and CONDOT officials make decisions based on an understanding of the environmental consequences of a proposed project. It's prepared to meet both NEPA requirements and SEPA requirements. What's included? Some of this is a bit of a repeat, but it's important to kind of cover what actual sections are involved in the document. Up front in the document, there's a clear articulation of the purpose and need statement. Along with that, a description of the affected area and the existing conditions, and then importantly, an analysis of both alternatives and an assessment of potential impacts on environmental resources. Along with this, there's a summary of proposed mitigation measures, and then importantly, in the case of the Cribari Bridge, EA-EIE, a programmatic Section 4F evaluation. So what is a Section 4F? Section 4F is a law that's providing protection for publicly owned parks, recreational areas, wildlife refuges, and historic sites, regardless of ownership. Under the law, a use is only allowed if no feasible and prudent avoidance alternative exists, and the use includes all possible means to minimize impacts, or what we might refer to as mitigation actions. The programmatic Section 4F evaluation is one of many different types of possible 4F evaluations and approvals, but the programmatic approach provides a consistent framework for evaluating Section 4F uses for impacts of a similar type. In the case of this project, the use of a historic bridge. CONDOT has included a draft version of the evaluation of this EA-EIE due to the inclusion of the replacement alternatives that you may have seen in the boards out in the lobby. It can also be found in Appendix A of the available document. So this slide shows a summary of the overall NEPA and SEPA process that I just mentioned, starting with a series of activities that have been completed to date, which are shown and highlighted here in red. And these include the project initiation and early coordination, where data was collected on the proposed project, and and the need for the project was developed. Also includes the public scoping of the project, and then further refinement of the purpose and need, and the development of the project alternatives. And then importantly, the preparation and publication of the EA-EIE document. So we are now in the public comment period, which will be followed by a response to comments, as mentioned earlier, signing of a memorandum of agreement, or MOA, that outlines cooperative relationships and specific responsibilities between responsible parties, and then a signing of the 4F document, and then the preparation of a NEPA-SEPA decision document. So following the NEPA-SEPA process, if a decision is made to advance one of the alternatives considered, the project could move then to final design, permitting, and construction. It's important to note that the public will also have an opportunity to provide input on the project as it might proceed through final design. So having covered a little bit of background on just NEPA and SEPA and what the EA-EIE document is, I'll next describe a little bit more on the purpose and need, which some of you may have seen on the boards out in the lobby. So I'll start with a brief overview of the early coordination I just mentioned on the previous slide that really helped shape the purpose and need in addition to the development of the project alternatives. So public outreach for the project began in November of 2015 with a public meeting to kick off the rehabilitation study, and it continued into the EA-EIE process. A notice of public scoping was published in the Connecticut Environmental Monitor, the CEQ Environmental Monitor, on May 17th of 2016, and then again on June 7th and June 15th of the same year. And a public scoping meeting was held on June 15th of 2016. Following that, a post-scoping notice was published in the same Environmental Monitor on August 4th of 2020 and again on August 18th. During the alternatives development phase in 2018, a public involvement plan was developed to ensure that the public would have access to information and provide a variety of opportunities for engagement. As James mentioned, a project advisory committee, or a PAC, as you'll hear termed elsewhere in the presentation, was formed to provide input to CONDOT and FHWA during the alternatives development phase of the project. In total, 6 PAC meetings were held between 2018 and 2025 to review and discuss the project alternatives. Meetings with historic stakeholders have also been held, with the most recent meeting being held on December 18th of 2025. There have also been other public informational meetings, presentations before the Regional Planning Agency, meetings with the Town of Westport committees, commissions, and boards. And more information can be found on all of this coordination on the CONDOT project website, which is linked here via QR code, and there are also QR codes on the boards and pamphlets in the lobby. As was mentioned by Deputy Alicia King tonight, tonight is really a continuation of this engagement, and it's intended to provide yet another opportunity to collect additional feedback and comment as part of the environmental review process and before any decision documents are prepared or an alternative is selected for potentially advancing through design and construction. So through this coordination that I just highlighted on the previous slide, the following purpose was established for the proposed project as also articulated in the EA-EIE document. And this is to provide a resilient structure that addresses the structural and functional deficiencies of the existing bridge and accommodates safe vehicular, bicycle, pedestrian, and marine traffic. Next, I will summarize some of the existing conditions and further describe some of the needs for the project. To help describe some of the existing conditions and needs for the project, it can be helpful to provide some context on how CONDOT assesses the structural and functional capacities of bridges. So new structures are typically rated between 7 and 9, and projects are typically scheduled when the structure is rated at a 5 or lower. The department uses bridge safety inspections to determine the conditions of the structure and the need for a potential project. These are cyclical and take place biannually, and Cribari's last bridge safety inspection, as noted here on the slide, was in 2024. When a bridge's condition is determined to be poor, the department may choose to modify the frequency of the inspections to continue monitoring the structure. Starting in 2026, just this year, Cribari Bridge has been placed on a 12-month inspection cycle due to its substructure condition being rated at a 4 or poor condition. Next, I will review several of the structural and functional deficiencies highlighted in these inspection reports. So structural and functional deficiencies identified in prior inspections include the damaged truss system with substandard ability to withstand wind loads, substandard vehicle lane width and height, non-crash test compliant guardrail system, and vulnerable mechanical and electrical equipment. And pictured on this slide, you can see a deteriorating sidewalk support beam at abutment 1, a damaged metal beam, railing, and approach railing at the northeast corner of the structure, and the rusted batten plate and lattice bar at span 1, truss 1. Structural functional deficiencies also included, as identified in these reports, the 20-ton vehicular weight limit, fracture critical end floor beams and box girder with rust and isolated section loss rated as fair, and several structural elements in damaged and or deteriorating condition. Pier 2 and 3 piles have extensive spalling or concrete deterioration and exposed rebar as well as steel plates. We'll show a few of these images here. But what you can see pictured on this slide is on the uppermost photo, the laminated rust on span 1 girder 7, spalling or that concrete deterioration on Pier 2 on the west pile 1, and section loss or that loss of material at Pier 2 east pile 1. Additionally, as pictured on this slide, you can see some of the other images reflecting the underside of the structure and the amount of deterioration and section loss. This includes on Pier 2 east pile 2 in the upper left-hand corner, diagonal seal channels with corrosion and 100% section loss as identified in that most recent inspection report. The image on the lower left shows abutment 2 with rust on the girders on the underside of the structure. And then the pictures on the right-hand side, starting with the upper right-hand side, shows some of the missing concrete and exposed rebar on Pier 2 east pile 1E. And as a reference image, the image on the lower right depicts a pile with the original concrete encasement. And this is a photo from an earlier image shown from an alternate location. So that's a little bit about some of the existing conditions, but also want to make sure we touch on what we mean by the substandard design for vehicular, bicycle, pedestrian, and marine traffic. So in terms of substandard design, it was noted in the description of the existing conditions in the EIE document that sidewalk is not currently ADA compliant, or there is no sidewalk that's there. No roadway or shoulder accommodate dedicated bicycle lanes. There's no solid roadway barrier gate system when the bridge is open, and there's low vertical marine clearance and time-consuming openings. Additionally, and I think we got some comments about this out in the lobby, the vertical clearance is controlled in part by the height of the existing electrical box, which, despite this photo and the depth of field of the image, is at a height of 12 feet 8 inches. It's also part limited by the existing spanning member shown more in the background of this image here, which is at a height of 13 feet 10 inches. So that is just a quick review of some of the existing conditions and some of what was evaluated as part of those inspection reports. And now I'll talk a little bit more about some of the project alternatives that were developed through the NEPA-SEPA process and described in further detail in that EIE document. So overall, there were 5 alternatives evaluated and included as part of the EIE document. These include the no-build alternative, and then 4 what we would term build alternatives, inclusive of the conservation alternative, the rehabilitation alternative, and then the on and off replacement alternatives. Next, I'll briefly describe these each in turn, highlighting some of the key elements of each of the alternatives, which are also reflected on the boards out in the lobby. So under the no-build alternative, the existing operations and maintenance could be continued. This was used really as a benchmark to evaluate the other 4 build alternatives that were included in the EIE document. Under the no-build alternative, the department would maintain current maintenance practices within the limits of its capabilities, incurring additional maintenance costs as required. It's anticipated that no changes to the navigation channel and that there would be no use of a temporary bridge. It's also anticipated that the structure could have a service life estimated between 10 to 15 years, but may eventually require major construction to ensure that the bridge remains usable. Now to talk about the 4 build alternatives, starting with the conservation alternative. The conservation alternative is one of the 4 build alternatives that was evaluated as part of the EIE, and was developed in coordination with that PAC that was mentioned before. Under the conservation alternative, limited repairs would be implemented to restore the bridge to a similar condition to the 1990s rehab project and address some safety and structural needs. Key elements of this alternative could include limited repairs or structural repairs to piers 2 and 3, repair to the damaged truss, and then the lengthening of Bridge Street, westbound right turn storage lane, which is at the intersection of Bridge Street and Riverside Ave, to address some of the vehicular safety and intersection flow. It's also anticipated that this alternative may require short-term closures of the navigation channel and the use of a temporary bridge during construction. The estimated anticipated life of this alternative is between 25 to 40 years. Pictured on this slide here are some of the visual representations of what the conservation alternative could look like. These images are pulled directly from Appendix B of the EIE document. That's the same appendix where you can find the visualizations that will be shown on the subsequent slides related to these alternatives, and they're also out on the boards. So the rehabilitation alternative, this is another one of the 4 build alternatives that was evaluated as part of the NEPA-SEPA process. Under this alternative, the bridge could be rehabilitated to address more of the safety and structural needs. Key elements of this alternative include widening of trusses and increasing the vertical clearance, installing a MASH-compliant guardrail system, reconstructing or replacing Pier 2 support system, patching the substructure and deck, and replacing mechanical and electrical equipment, replacing the fender system underneath the bridge to protect the piers. And likewise, it's also anticipated that this alternative would require short-term closures of the navigation channel and the use of a temporary bridge during construction. The anticipated estimated service life for this alternative is between 25 and 40 years. I'll just flash this up on the screen here momentarily. This is, again, pictured are some of the visual representations of what this alternative could look like. All right, now to talk about the two replacement alternatives that were included in the EIE. So this is the on-alignment replacement alternative. It again is one of the 4 build alternatives and one of 2 replacement alternatives that was evaluated in the document. This alternative is the department's preferred alternative, and under this alternative, a new movable bridge could be constructed on the same general alignment as the existing structure, requiring the removal of the existing bridge. This new bridge could be designed to meet current roadway, multimodal, and load standards, increase marine vertical clearance, improve bridge operations, and raise the mechanical and electrical equipment. Similar to some of the previous alternatives mentioned, this would also include the potential lengthening of Bridge Street westbound right turn storage lane. It's also anticipated that this would require short-term closures of the navigation channel and the use of a temporary bridge during construction. But importantly, this alternative could also allow the department to solicit interest in eligible off-site adaptive reuse of the historic bridge trusses. Overall, the anticipated service life of this alternative is estimated to be between 75 and 100 years. Pictured on this slide are some of the visual representations of what the on-alignment replacement alternative could look like. And if you want to spend more time with these images, they are on our boards as well out in the lobby. And lastly, we have the off-alignment replacement alternative, which is, again, another one of the 4 build alternatives and the other of the two replacement alternatives that was evaluated as part of the EIE document. Under this alternative, a new movable bridge could be constructed on an alignment just north of the existing bridge, which would require the removal of the existing bridge. This new bridge could be designed, again, to meet current roadway, multimodal, and load standards, increase the marine vertical clearance, improve bridge operations, and raise the mechanical and electrical equipment. Similarly to some of the other alternatives mentioned, this would also include the lengthening of the Bridge Street westbound right turn storage lane. It's anticipated that it would similarly require some of the short-term closures, the navigation channel mentioned before, but is not anticipated to require a temporary bridge during construction. Importantly, again, this alternative also allowed the department to solicit interest in eligible off-site adaptive reuse of the historic bridge trusses. Similarly to the other replacement alternative, the anticipated service life of this alternative is between 75 and 100 years. And this is just a quick snapshot of what this could look like. Okay, so the table on the screen, which you might have seen also broken out on some of the boards out in the lobby, was also included in the EIE, and it really provides a summary of how each of the alternatives may meet or fall short of meeting the parameters of the established purpose and need for the project. As is demonstrated in this table, the alternatives evaluated as part of the EIE range from alternatives that met none of the parameters of the purpose and need, like the no-build alternative, to those that met all of the parameters of the purpose and need, like the two replacement alternatives, which is in part why the on-alignment replacement was noted in the EIE as the preferred alternative. Having briefly reviewed the alternatives evaluated as part of that EIE document, I'll now similarly summarize several of the resource areas evaluated in the document as they relate to potential environmental impacts. So in keeping with the NEPA and SEPA process, a detailed analysis of potential environmental impacts and related mitigation measures was evaluated. The resource areas evaluated in the EIE document include those listed on the screen here. And I'll now just briefly summarize some of the impacts, both positive and negative, as identified in the document, and related mitigation measures included in the evaluation as they relate to several of the resource areas, namely the ones bolded here on the slide. So on the section in the EIE on impacts related to property acquisition, displacement, and relocation, no change or permanent impacts are anticipated with the no-build, conservation, rehabilitation, and on-alignment replacement alternatives. And fewer than 10 permanent partial property takings, a reduced parking area, and the removal or relocation of a private dock are anticipated with the off-alignment replacement alternative. To mitigate against the potential negative effects from implementing these alternatives, temporary easements would be determined in consultation with property owners as needed, and fair compensation would also be provided to property owners for any permanent losses. I'll next hand it over to Kathleen for just a brief note from the divisions of rights-of-way.
Thank you very much. So again, my name is Kathleen Erickson, and I'm a project coordinator with the department's Division of Rights-of-Way. Our office is responsible for acquiring property rights that are needed for transportation projects all throughout the state. So I'll just be giving you a brief overview of what that process would look like. Is this better? Okay. So I'm just going to be giving you a brief overview of what the right-of-way acquisitions process would look like for those folks who would have to encounter it, depending on the options that's chosen. Before I get further into that, though, I do want to mention that any property rights that are acquired are done so in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, Sections 13A-73 and 13A-98E, as well as the Uniform Act. So the right-of-way acquisition process would begin once the project gets to a development milestone and all of the property impacts have then been determined. At that point, each affected property owner would receive from our office a formal letter of intent to acquire, as well as a property map depicting the exact property rights to be acquired. You can see on the screen here just a sample of what the property maps look like. Next, our office would determine the fair market value of those property rights, which would be used to create an offer of just compensation. The property owner would receive the offer in writing, and a right-of-way agent would be available to meet with them to discuss the project, their specific property impacts, and the offer itself. The property owner would then be given a reasonable amount of time to consider the state's offer and to enter into negotiations. And then once an agreement has been reached, the department will prepare all the necessary documents in order to record the deed and the property map on the town land records. Now, if an agreement cannot be reached, in order to maintain the project schedule, the department may acquire necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain. If that were to happen, the state would file a notice of condemnation with the Superior Court, along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. The property owner is then given 6 months to file an appeal if they feel the state's offer is inadequate. And also, whether or not the owner chooses to appeal, the money that was deposited in the court is available to be withdrawn by the property owner at any time. I do want to make note, too, that the property impacts that would be acquired through the project would only be done so if they are deemed necessary for this project. But with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Alex to continue on with the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Kathleen. All right, so I'm going to jump back into the EIE document here and just touch on a few more of the sections related to the impact evaluation. So on the section related to traffic and transportation, operational and safety issues would remain the same or may even worsen with the no-build alternative. The conservation alternative could be designed to meet standard load rating for bridges on state routes, result in a fair condition or better of the structure, and improve traffic operations. This alternative would not include the widening of curb-to-curb width or the existing sidewalk, no incorporation of bike lane or shoulder, have no installation of a MASH-compliant guardrail, and include no raising or replacement of mechanical or electrical systems with water-resistant equipment. Also be no change to the vertical clearance of the marine navigation channel. The rehabilitation alternative could be designed to result in similar positive effects to the conservation alternative, while also replacing the mechanical and electrical systems with water-resistant equipment. This alternative would similarly not widen the curb-to-curb width. There'd be no incorporation of a bike lane or shoulder, no raising of the mechanical and electrical systems, and no change to the vertical clearance for marine navigation. And lastly, the two replacement alternatives could be designed to result in similar positive effects to the rehabilitation alternative just mentioned on the previous slide, while also including the widening of the curb-to-curb width, the installation of ADA-compliant sidewalk, the incorporation of a bike lane or shoulder, and increasing the vertical clearance for marine navigation. To mitigate against potential negative effects from implementing these alternatives, mitigation measures include maintaining traffic operations and proactively communicating off-peak lane closures, in addition to using maintenance and protection of traffic, or MPT, measures and signage to ensure the safety of all modes of travel through the project site. On the section related to public safety and security, it was noted in the EIE that there would be no anticipated changes with the implementation of the no-build, conservation, rehabilitation alternatives. The two replacement alternatives could be designed to enhance mobility for emergency responders and improve pedestrian mobility through ADA-compliant sidewalk. To mitigate against potential negative effects from implementing these alternatives, mitigation measures include using maintenance and protection of traffic, or MPT measures, and signage to ensure that the safety of all modes of travel through the project site, and proactively communicating short-term restrictions of the navigation channel. In terms of visual and aesthetic impacts, it's anticipated that there would be no change to the existing visual and aesthetic conditions, and that the visual impacts would be minimal for the conservation, rehab, and on and off alignment replacement alternatives, because the dominant visual features are not expected to change. To mitigate against potential negative effects from implementing these alternatives, measures could be taken to implement avoidance, minimization, and mitigation measures as specified in that future memorandum of agreement between FHWA, SHPO, and the department. and also working with the municipalities and stakeholders during the design process to build an aesthetically pleasing replacement bridge that considers the community setting to the extent feasible for a state-owned resource. In terms of impacts to cultural resources under Section 106, it is anticipated that there would be no adverse effect associated with the no-build, conservation, and rehabilitation alternatives. The two replacement alternatives are anticipated to result in an adverse effect under Section 106, resulting from the removal of the historic bridge. To mitigate against potential negative effects from implementing these alternatives, measures could be taken to again implement avoidance, minimization, and mitigation measures as specified in that future memorandum of agreement, and also conducting a marketing effort to solicit interest in eligible off-site adaptive reuse of the historic bridge. It's important to note the department is still accepting comments from the public and consulting parties under Section 106, concurrent with this EA-EIE comment period. While the department received no mitigation ideas from following the last Section 106 meeting, CONDOT would like to hear ideas for mitigation measures from the public and Section 106 consulting parties should one of the replacement alternatives be advanced for further design and construction. These comments will be taken into consideration by FHWA, SHPO, and CONDOT in developing that memorandum of agreement. A Section 106 consulting party meeting will be held following the EA-EIE comment period. If the preferred alternative is chosen or selected, CONDOT will lead a consultation meeting about the MOA, and if another alternative is chosen, CONDOT will lead a consultation meeting to discuss the impacts, minimization, and mitigation of that alternative. And lastly, as it relates to navigable waters, it is anticipated that there would be no change under the no-build and conservation alternatives. It is anticipated that the rehabilitation alternative may reduce the channel width by approximately 2 feet, while the replacement alternatives could be designed to increase vertical marine clearance. To mitigate against potential negative effects from implementing these alternatives, mitigation measures could be taken to implement proper construction staging to minimize impacts on navigable water, determining the need for temporary easements and or temporary relocation of the floating dock in consultation with property owners, working with property owners to determine fair compensation for any permanent loss, and proactively coordinating on these short-term restrictions that may be needed within the navigation channel with the United States Coast Guard, Army Corps of Engineers, Connecticut Deep, and the town of Westport, inclusive of the harbor master and the Shellfish Commissioner, and other stakeholders. As part of the requirements of FHWA's programmatic Section 4F evaluation for the use of historic bridges, a bridge marketing plan is included as an attachment to the Section 4F evaluation that is included in Appendix A of the EA-EIE document. If contractor laydown and storage areas are located within the Bridge Street Historic District, these areas will go through a Section 4F evaluation when they're identified. All right, so a note on costs. As a complement to the narrative included in the EA-EIE on potential impacts and mitigation measures, with the resource areas outlined on that previous section, a cost comparison table was also included in the document. This cost comparison table highlighted a range of costs associated with each alternative. For the no-build alternative, as was mentioned earlier, maintenance costs will be incurred as required. It is estimated for the conservation alternative that costs could range between $49 and $54 million. For the rehabilitation alternative, between $50 and $55 million. For the on-alignment replacement, between $78 and $86 million. And for the off-alignment replacement, between $66 and $73 million. I'll now turn it back over to Amy, who will open it up for the public comment period and provide some additional instructions. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. We will now be starting the formal public statement and comment portion of the hearing. The ground rules, which I discussed earlier, are shown for your reference. Thank you. Please introduce yourself, and if you are representing an organization, please give its name as well. We ask that you please limit your statements to the allotted 3 minutes, and I will advise you when you have reached your time limit. If you still have additional comments, I will ask if anyone would like the opportunity to speak again. An additional 2 minutes of time will be allotted for this purpose. You may also use the supplied comment form, QR code, email Mr. James Barrows, and the voicemail box to submit your comments. If you have signed up to speak, please come to the right side of the auditorium. If you didn't sign up to speak, but a comment comes to mind, feel free to raise your hand. We will add your name to the sign-up sheet. Our staff will also be stationed outside at the display boards and will be happy to remain here tonight to speak with you one-on-one regarding any other individual comments and questions that you might have, but they will not be accepting formal comments. The first name on our speaker sign-up sheet is, I'm sorry if I really mess up your last names. I will try my best. Is Kristen Sheeman?
I would actually prefer to make my comments from the podium, if that's all right. I don't see any reason.
We're doing recordings over there with the transcriber tonight.
But I think many in the community would like to have the opportunity for other folks to hear their comments, including all of the staff that came here, members of the community, members of the media. Let us speak from the podium.
So listen, we're not going to say that people can't speak from the podium. However, hold on, let me do my however, because we do a lot of these meetings, right? There's a lot of way for people to give public comment, and what we also hear back from people is that it's intimidating to speak from the podium, and also there's a lot of people who want to make sure that their comments get considered in the record who don't have the luxury of being able to stay here for a long period of time, which is one of the reasons that we have made sure that there are multiple ways for people to give public comment. People feel more comfortable doing it verbally than in writing or online. We have the table over here. This is not that big a room. If people want to stand there and hear, they can. If you really want to be at the podium, you can be at the podium, but I don't want everyone to feel like I just want to level set, though. I want to make it really clear that everybody does not have to come to the podium. If you want... There's a microphone over there. That's a recording microphone. This is an amplifying microphone. You can go to the podium, but I want to remind people that if they don't feel comfortable, there's lots of other ways to take comment.
Do we want to move this?
Oh, do you want to take your?
Yeah. James,
You want to take it out?
can we move this so they can put their notes up here, please?
Oh, I just didn't want to touch your computer if you didn't want me to.
Thanks, no, I appreciate it. I was just going to move it to this.
Because if they have notes and they want to put them up here, I don't want it to
No,
be...
it's okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I might have.
Or under?
Yeah, I just want folks to, if they do.
I was just, because I know you have... Oh,
No, it's just a piece of paper.
I thought you had notes. I
I
didn't want
swear,
to be in your
3
way.
minutes, I swear to God. Okay, thank you. I know. All right, I got to talk fast. Thank you, I appreciate the opportunity. I know others do as well, but I also appreciate the other ways for people to give comment, and I hope everybody will. So good evening, my name is Kristen Schneeman. I'm a Westport resident and a representative of District 9 on the RTM, which is abuts the bridge, so we are the representatives of the bridge people. We've been hearing that the state doesn't know what Westport wants, but in recent months, public opinion has really been converging around two community needs. First, preventing tractor-trailer traffic from crossing the bridge, creating a fourth lane of I-95. You're cutting into my time. Thank you. That jeopardizes safety, health, and quality of life well beyond the Bridge Street historic area. And number two, preserving the historic character of an icon of Westport, Connecticut, and the nation. I want to focus on the legal framework guiding this project, specifically Section 4F of the Department of Transportation Act, and what it requires before CONDOT and the Highway Administration can approve replacing the Cribari Bridge. Section 4F is a binding federal law. It prohibits the Highway Administration from approving any project that uses a historic site unless there is no feasible or prudent alternative. The Cribari Bridge has been on the National Register since 1987, is a contributing resource to the Bridge Street Historic District, and sits on a designated Connecticut scenic highway. Replacing it is a use of a protected resource under Section 4F. The Highway Administration's programmatic Section F evaluation for historic bridges, which you saw up here, is explicit. Flexibility in transportation standards must be exercised before an agency can conclude a bridge cannot be rehabilitated. For bridges that are rehabilitated, historic integrity must be preserved to the greatest extent possible, consistent with unavoidable transportation needs, safety, and load requirements. Have those flexibilities been fully exercised here? I would respectfully submit that they have not. Federal regulations provide real tools here. Under the Highway Administration's design criteria, only 2 of 10 controlling criteria apply to low-speed roadways, like Route 136. The remaining 8, including vertical clearance, apply only to roads with design speeds of 50 miles an hour or greater. Design exceptions are permitted when justified by crash history, traffic volumes, cost, and community impact. In case you can't tell, I read the Code of Federal Regulations for a living. ConnDOT just completed an almost $90 million rehabilitation of the East Haddam Swing Bridge, a comparable historic structure, with new mechanical and electrical systems without raising the bridge above base flood elevation. If ConnDOT can do that in East Haddam, it must explain why the same approach is not feasible here. That is the standard Section 4F imposes. The Highway Administration's own policy encourages context-sensitive design in the rehab of historic bridges. ConnDOT's Highway Design Manual calls on designers to be imaginative, innovative, and flexible. If the oldest active movable highway bridge in Connecticut does not merit that flexibility, what does? On the cost, rehab would likely come in, as we saw, well below the replacement estimate under Section 4F. Cost is a legitimate factor. A less expensive alternative that preserves a nationally significant resource and serves the community's actual transportation needs is on its face both feasible and prudent. In closing, I urge ConnDOT and the Highway Administration to give full, good faith consideration to adaptive rehabilitation, exercising the design flexibilities federal law provides, applying engineering solutions that have worked on comparable structures in this state, and honoring the protections Congress enacted for resources like this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and you're right at 3 minutes. That was perfect. The next speaker is Matthew Mandel. I hope I got your last name right. I got your name right. Perfect.
Hi, my name is Matthew Mandel, and I represent RTM District 1, which also abuts the bridge. We represent the bridge people. I was also a member of the PAC, and I would very much like to see the PAC reformed and have more meetings. I think it's much easier to have 20 people sitting in a room with a give and take instead of this. This is wonderful, but there's no possibility for give and take. I think you've heard a lot about the rehabilitation, adaptive rehabilitation. What does that mean in terms of the organizations that came forward? If you think it's easy to have 4 Westport organizations come together with a single idea in terms of some form of compromise in working through this, you understand it's difficult. But this is what it is. The idea is you take the ornamental top and you take it off. You then widen it and you refurbish it. Now you go to the bridge that's there, the actual functional part of the bridge, and you fix it. You take some of the ideas from the rehabilitation that you've looked at on the screen, and you take some of the ideas of the online change, and you put them together in a hybrid fashion. You make it wider. You make it stronger. Fix all the piers, not just 2, but all of them. You can then take the mechanicals. You can lift them up. But in East Haddam, you didn't lift them up, so you could leave them there. You could make them waterproof. Then, once you have this bridge that's wide enough for bikes, for transportation, for your guardrails, for easy things so you don't have your white knuckle moment, you bring back the metal structure and you put it back down on top of it. You make sure that there is some form of physical constraint for the trucks. And now we have a historic bridge that's fully functional, exactly what we need, what you need. All of your check boxes are done except for the truck part, but that's our part that we want checked off. We hope that this compromise being brought to you would outweigh the need for the trucks, and then we can all get together in the PAC and 20 people sit together and work out the solution that works for the town, for the residents, for the state, and for the DOT. If this doesn't work out and there's some reason that trucks still need to be on this bridge, we're getting there. I got 30 seconds left. Having Bridge Street and Greens Farms Road become the 4th lane of 95 and be a service road is an existential threat to the future of this community. These 4 groups that represent from Saugatuck all the way to Greens Farms are offering a solution that I think we can all embrace and move forward together and make it work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You adhered perfectly to the 3 minutes, too. I very much appreciate that. It helps us get through the whole speaker list this evening. Marley Boyd? Borley. Sorry. Thank you very much for the correction. My apologies.
Morley Boyd, Westport Preservation Alliance. Tough to follow that act. A few months ago, I was going through my library looking for something, which I never did find, but what I did find was something I forgot I actually had, and that is the Department of Transportation's book that they published in 1991 on its inventory of historic bridges. Yeah, that's right. And what's really interesting about it is it's actually only part of the story. The rest of the story is this. The Department of Transportation, the Connecticut Department of Transportation, actually has a bridge preservation plan. It's on its website. You can get it. It runs hundreds of pages. It's comprehensive. And by the way, it calls out for special attention bridges that are within the bounds of, that's right, National Register districts. So I thought when I plowed through the EA that I would see reference to the department's bridge preservation plan. But I may have missed it. I didn't see it anywhere. I saw our plan of conservation and development. I saw all kinds of things. I did not see this. And I thought to myself, if the oldest operable movable bridge in the state of Connecticut, and now in the nation, doesn't fall under this stewardship document, what does? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Charles Lucas? I did not. I don't start until you talk.
Awesome. So Charles Lucas, RTM for District 4. I'm presenting for Andrew Colabella, RTM District 4, who had to go out of town for a family emergency. Good evening. I want to speak plainly about what's being proposed and what it actually means for Westport overall. This is not just about a bridge. This is about a kind of traffic we invite into the heart of our village, Saugatuck. Expanding the bridge and allowing the through truck access does not exist in a vacuum. It sends a signal, and the signal is simple. This is a route for larger, heavier commercial traffic. Let's talk about reality, not theory. A standard tractor trailer is up to 75 feet long. These vehicles are not designed for the narrow, winding, historically laid out roads we're discussing tonight. They create major visibility issues for drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians. They cannot make turns without crossing into opposing lanes. They risk blocking entire intersections during even routine maneuvers. They cannot physically pass under the existing railroad bridge heights. These are not hypothetical concerns, these are physical limitations. Now layer that on with a revolutionary era layout and meets and bounds of this area, tight corners, constrained sight lines, and infrastructure that predicates modern trucking by centuries. This network was never designed, nor should it be retrofitted to accommodate tractor trailers. But it's subject to, a subject we haven't touched on is we have also needed to consider vibration and structural impact. Bridge Street, Riverside Avenue, Greens Farms Road are lined with approximately 50 historic homes, many of which sit on stone stacked rock foundations. These foundations have endured generations, but have not been built to withstand the repeated semi-seismic-like vibrations caused by heavy truck traffic over time. Ground vibration, micro settlement stress, cumulative structural fatigue translates into real damage, cracking and shifting, degradation that cannot be simply undone. And once this damage begins, the trucks will not pay the price. It's the homeowners that will. So we will need to ask ourselves, are we solving a problem or creating a much larger one? Because the expanding capacity does not relieve pressure. It reroutes it into places that are fundamentally incompatible with the level of the type of traffic. We have already taken steps in the town to limit through truck traffic. This policy reflects a clear understanding of our roads are not industrial corridors. Once tractor trailers begin using these roads regularly, the consequences will not be theoretical. They'll be immediate, visible, and lasting. This is about safety. This is about infrastructure reality. This is about protecting the historic fabric of our town. These negatives outweigh the positives, so please meet us in the middle, just like bridges from both sides. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris Tate? I knew I was going to invite you up today.
Chris Tate, RTM District 1, down in Saugatuck, Bridges in my constituency. That said, I'm going to speak on somebody who grew up in Westport and who grew up down in the beach area. And as you know, in Westport, certain things every town values, every town has a certain something that it remembers its past from and what they have today. And there's a few items like that in every town that you have that, yes, the town progresses and the town grows, but you have that one item. And this bridge is that item. When you come off the highway, you come off the train, you come on after you cross that bridge, you're like, I'm in Westport. That's what it signs to you. I have friends of mine who've moved out of Westport and come back to Westport, and when they drive back over the bridge, you're like, it's still Westport. Even though you see the post road, we see everything going on, it's still Westport. So that's what it brings here. And also, I look at the safety concerns too in that area. If we allow the truck, the 18-wheelers to get over there, they come in, you have a railroad station that the state's looking us to do affordable housing, and you might have increased housing down there. You have shops, restaurants, traffic, people crossing streets, and you're gonna have more people cross streets and more people walking to the train station. To throw an 18-wheeler in the middle of that, I think that's a disaster waiting to happen. And the reason I say that is because it's not that said it can't be done. Rowayton has a no-through truck because Rowayton had trucks, 18-wheelers on 136, which is a state road, that would go through their town. The state said, yeah, no, you're right, it's a safety issue. And they gave them a no-through. So it's been done. I think we can do it here. But again, I look back also what this bridge means, and like Matt Mendel said, can we take the trestle off, put it back on? I look at things like Kent, Connecticut, the red covered bridge. It wouldn't be Kent, Connecticut without that bridge. And so the state came in, gave them the same bridge, fixed it, made it strong, made it last 50 years, but gave them the same bridge. I think we can do that here. The state can do it. We want to work with you. We're not here to say no to you. We not say you're the bad people. You're the good people, but we want to work with you, but we want to make sure we understand this is not just a bridge. It's part of Westport. It's on posters. It's been around. You can see posters from the 1960s and so on. It's something that people go over every day and say, I'm in Westport. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dara Lamb?
Number one, thank you for having this public hearing, and thank you very much for opening it up and allowing us to speak publicly. I know in the audience also wants to be informed, as well as the DOT, and we appreciate the ability to make comments both tonight and later on, but sharing the comments among the public is really an important part of the educating of the public. It's a complicated issue, and there are many, many issues around it. So with that, I'll just say that I'm here to speak about public safety, continuing also from RTM Colabella's comments about the trucks and their need for bigger, wider lanes. Saugatuck is already a very congested and pedestrian-dense area. It's already had one traffic fatality, as well as a traumatic brain injury of a small child, which ended up in a huge financial liability to the state. Tonight, to give you an idea of the congestion, it took me 20 minutes on a regular evening, midweek evening, essentially, to traverse Saugatuck and get here. This is without any semi-trucks using the Cribari Bridge as a pass-through for 95. The state has future plans for Saugatuck, plans to make it denser and encourage even more pedestrian traffic by increasing housing, which is a state mandate. So as we see more pedestrian traffic, especially pedestrian traffic that's encouraged for walkability to the train, and people are already rushing to the train. As we see more young people in that area, semi-trucks can be a terrible hazard in the area, aside from the pollution and all of the other effects that have already been mentioned. We urge, this is the reason why we urge a permanent structural height impediment, not just signs, a height impediment that would come with any of the solutions that would appear on the Wazes and any other future apps that are developed. Signs can always be taken down in the future. We're looking towards the future. We're looking towards growth in that area. We know we'll have young families. We want them to be safe, and we would like any consideration by the DOT to strongly consider that and not add increased liability for the state as well by making a decision that might encourage semi-trucks to go through as a pass-through in the area of Saugatuck. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Oh, wait, ma'am. Ma'am. Thank you very much. Kristen Purcell.
Good evening, Kristen Purcell, RTM District 1, also representing the Saugatuck community. I'm also a Saugatuck-based business owner whose office overlooks the Cribari Bridge. I'm here to raise a contradiction within the plans that we're seeing for a new bridge versus a rehab bridge. I want to highlight the state's approach of a rehab versus rebuild. The state administration and legislature has designated Saugatuck a transit-oriented district. Under Connecticut's Work, Live, Ride initiative, our goal is to take and expand the community to increase economic development, walkable streets, and access to the Saugatuck train station. We're also in discussions with the Connecticut Municipal Development Authority to join and further support our development of this gem of a community in Saugatuck. A bridge designed to full state federal clearance standards, one that removes every structural barrier to heavy truck traffic through the center of the neighborhood, is fundamentally incompatible with the state mandate of Work, Live, Ride and Connecticut Municipal Development Authority. The state cannot designate Saugatuck a model TOD community in one office and engineer away the traffic protections in another. COT's filing does not address this inconsistency. I'm asking that we confirm and consider whether a new rehabilitated bridge that the DOT commits to resolve the contradiction within the state's TOD goals before the design is finalized. CTDOT acknowledged in its own FORA filing that Westport has the authority to restrict trucks on local roads. The community is asking you to help us with that protection by writing a height restriction into the Memorandum of Understanding. I want to be direct about why this restriction must be structural, not just regulatory. GPS rerouting, I-95 diversions, misguided drivers are all realities. A posted sign can be ignored. A bridge that physically bars physical trucks from crossing this bridge cannot be. The current bridge clearance is self-enforcing. A restriction without a physical constraint is not. Saugatuck deserves a rehab bridge that respects where the neighborhood is going and that does not work against it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Werner Leopold? Thank you very much.
My name is Werner Leopold. I'm a resident of the Bridge Street Historic District, teacher in the Westport schools for 40 years until my retirement, and painter since. I'm also a federally recognized consulting party for this project under Section 106 pursuant to Federal Highway Administration's February 2nd, 2017 letter. I've painted the Cribari Bridge across seasons, across light, and across years. In Westport, the bridge is not just infrastructure, it is part of a long artistic and cultural tradition. Its low profile and its relation to the river, to light, and to season are what make it integral to the character and setting of the National Register Historic District. That tradition is well documented, from 19th century renderings of the original swing bridge to works held by the Westport Historical Society, to Robert Lambkin's Works Progress Administration commissioned Saugatuck mural, and the extraordinary output during Westport's cover story era, when 17 New Yorker artists living in Westport and Weston produced 767 covers for the New Yorker and laid the foundation for the many artists practicing here today. Their mid-century imagery included many scenes from the area, and in my submitted comments, I'm going to include Edna Ike's 1956 New Yorker cover depicting the nearby Dolan House, which was home of the Saugatuck Swing Bridge tender in the 1940s. This crossing has long been expression, or even an icon, of how Westport sees itself, and the bridge reflects the historic balance between commerce on the West Bank and residential life on the east. I'd like to focus on Appendix G of the 2020 environmental assessment completed 6 years ago, 4 years before CONDOT and WestCog began planning for the transit-oriented district on the West Bank. Appendix G is the visual impact assessment. I will now raise several points that I believe require clarification by the Federal Highway Administration in its oversight role. This assessment states that its fieldwork was conducted in 2020, with the most recent visit to take pictures on May 10th, 2020. May, when vegetation is fully leafed out. Their analysis relies significantly on that vegetation to limit visibility. However, it does not appear to include, is that me out of town?
Your 3 minutes is up. If you want, I can call you back up after we've gone through all the first-time speakers.
Mind if I finish? However, it does not appear.
We can submit that all, and it will all be as.
I have submitted it. I have submitted it.
Okay. You want to summarize the rest? We can give you another minute now instead
Sure,
of
I'm
waiting.
just about done.
Okay, please. Yep, go right ahead.
However, it does not appear to include a comparable analysis of leaf-off conditions, late fall through early spring, when the screening disappears. New England is a four-season place. On March 13th of this year, 2026, under leaf-off conditions, I observed that the bridge is clearly visible from multiple elevated residential locations within the preliminary area, including Saxon Lane and historic properties such as the Rufus Wakeman House and the Hotchkiss Wheeler House. These views have been part of the district for well over a century. These are not marginal viewpoints. They are historic upland perspectives overlooking the river where the bridge is experienced as part of the broader landscape of the district. These vantage points do not appear to be referenced in Appendix G. To be specific, contributing structures within the historic district and additional homes along Saxon Lane have direct views of the bridge, yet only street views of Bridge Street are referenced, and Saxon Lane is not referenced at all. As a consulting party and a painter, I would emphasize a visual assessment that does not include worst-case seasonal visibility and upland viewpoints is not a complete assessment of visual effects. So I'll conclude. Before I conclude, I want to address a critical omission in the visual impact assessment. The report acknowledges that residential neighbors with close static views are the most sensitive viewers, yet it fails to identify or analyze specific contributing properties that have direct upland views of the bridge within the Bridge Street Historic District, particularly 5 homes on Bridge Street and Saxon Lane, owned by these people. These are not incidental views. They are long-standing, historically continuous views that have existed for well over a century and contribute directly to the district's setting and character. So this is not about opposing change. It's about ensuring that change is fully understood, especially in a place where the visual landscape has long been recognized, studied, and celebrated as part of the community's identity. If we fail to see this place clearly in all seasons, from all the places it has always been seen, then we're not just changing a bridge, we're changing Westport itself.
Thank you. Art Schuler?
Good evening. My name is Art Scholler, President of the Greens Farms Association. The Greens Farms Association has been in existence since the 1960s, defending the quality of life in the Greens Farms area. This area is composed of over 1,000 individual homes. The southeastern section of Westport bears the burden of being a pass-through for I-95, Metro North, and the Post Road. Running through this area is the already mentioned Greens Farms Road, but let's go into a little more detail. It stretches for 4.5 miles from Bridge Street to the town of Fairfield border at Sasko Creek. Having only 3 traffic lights and 3 stop signs, it is already the go-to bypass route used by Google Maps during times of congestion on I-95. Is it a residential road that sees use by walkers, cyclists, and runners? Therefore, the analyses we've seen to date are truly lacking in terms of traffic impact on the greater Westport. Greens Farms Road already has areas of safety concerns identified in the Safe Streets study, with multiple locations where it is narrow, has difficult curves, and limited sight lines. We've already heard today the Cribari Bridge prevents large tractor-trailer trucks from selecting this bypass route. Therefore, we as the Green Farms Association oppose any alternative that allows trucks to utilize this route. No trucks!
Thank you very much. Valerie Jacobs?
Good evening. My name is Valerie Jacobs. I'm here tonight as a resident and as a representative of Save Westport Now, a recognized stakeholder and official consulting party in this project. Tonight, I'd like to talk about one specific environmental impact that DOT seems to be ignoring in its draft report, namely the increased air pollution that will result from allowing large diesel trucks, especially 18-wheelers, in the Saugatuck, Bridge Street, and Greens Farms area. Before I begin, I'd like to point out that the, quote, area of potential effects, or APE as it's called, in the draft environmental assessment report is too narrow. Under federal law, it's not supposed to be limited to the footprint of the bridge. The APA must include all areas where the project may cause direct or indirect or cumulative effects, including things like the vista, which Werner talked about. But if the DOT has its way, the APA will be limited to the bridge and one single house. At the very least, this area needs to be expanded to include all of the homes in the designated Bridge Street Historic District, as well as homes along Greens Farms and other nearby roads. Now back to the environment. According to the EPA, one of the most dangerous components of vehicle exhaust is fine particulate matter, what's called PM 2.5. It is now classified as a human carcinogen, directly linked to lung cancer, cardiovascular disease, and respiratory issues, including asthma, particularly among children. And there's growing evidence that these particles are implicated in a host of other neurological diseases, including Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Even short-term exposure is risky because when we breathe it in, it passes through lung tissue directly into the bloodstream. And take a guess, what kind of vehicles produce the most amount of PM 2.5? If you guessed 18-wheelers and other heavy trucks, you'd be right. According to the EPA, diesel trucks produce 5 times the amount of PM 2.5 compared to gas-powered vehicles. And the numbers, by the way, folks, get way, way worse if the vehicles are idling, because the engines produce more PM 2.5 at slower speeds than they do when they're traveling on the highway at fast speeds. Idling diesel engines reportedly generate, drum roll please, 18 times higher PM 2.5 levels than gasoline engines. And yet these are the very vehicles that the DOT plan will introduce into a residential neighborhood, a place populated by families and children, a street that already backs up with idling I-95 spillover traffic. It's bad enough we have the cars. Do we really need to have these diesel trucks too? Just imagine our school children waiting at the bus stop, I'm just about done, forced to breathe this stuff in. Cyclists, pedestrians trying to get to the train stations. The point is that allowing 18-wheelers and other large trucks in this residential neighborhood will create a serious public health hazard and needs to be taken into account. We cannot afford a bridge that will allow these large trucks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Charlie Rehelm? Oh, it could be. I'm so sorry. Carol. Sorry.
First, I really want to say, I'm not sure that we've said it enough, how much I want to thank you DOT people for an incredible amount of work. And it's, you know, we have a really big agenda with you. We found a way to align ourselves into pretty much one voice, thousands of us. Now we just need to align your agenda with our agenda. So having said that, I've looked up dozens, I'm a founding member of the Westport Saugatuck Alliance. We've looked up dozens of DOT projects, and you guys have done waivers and exemptions for community compromises, construction modifications, environmental issues. You've even already done exemptions on this project in the EAEI for other State Department requirements. It appears you can actually do whatever you want. So, You've also done route exemptions, including for bridges on weight, height, length, parkway prohibitions, OSTA authorized exemptions. Connecticut law and regulation explicitly allow for no through truck permits. You make exemptions for all kinds of load restrictions and compliance, like the Mystic River Bridge, Gold Star Bridge, Stevenson Dam Bridge. You rarely make environmental compliance waivers, and you make design standard exceptions for bridge geometry. Connecticut general statutes say you approve exceptions to geometric design standards for bridges based on site conditions, environmental factors, engineering judgment, and community context. We are certainly community context. So, can your engineers design a bridge that does not allow semis to steamroll through Saugatuck? I think so. You guys are very capable. For 90% of us, our one major priority is not allowing semis through Saugatuck. Why would you not find a way to do this? It leads us to a concern about understanding DOT's agenda. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? If you want trucks to go over a new bridge, an old bridge, all bridges, why don't you tell us that and then explain why? Because you obviously can exempt just about anything. To personalize this a little bit, it took Dara 20 minutes because she was late. It took me 34 minutes to travel 3.2 miles from Saugatuck down here tonight, which is the standard for Tuesday through Friday, really, from 3:30 till about 6:30. Unless you live in it, you have to understand that thousands of us are basically cut off from reaching children at school, meetings in town, the beach, many everyday and also urgent appointments. How to fire and rescue people reach us. If it were once or twice a year, I suppose we could live with it, but it's not. Waze tells cars to come through frequently on Greens Farms Road, and you can't stop Waze, but you can stop the trucks. We know you can. We'd like to work with you to find a way. You can do whatever you want, and we just would like it to be what we want too. Thank you.
Just before I call the next speaker, I do have comment forms. If anyone wants a comment form to write out a comment, just raise your hand. I will bring you a comment form while the next person is speaking. Gail Coy Kendall. Sorry. But if anybody wants a comment form, please raise your hand. I will bring one to you.
Hi, Gail Kuykendall, RTM District 1. Sorry, can you hear me now? Okay, good. I didn't want to be too close. Gail Kuykendall, RTM District 1. If you build it, they will come. In this case, if a bridge is built to accommodate 18-wheelers, they will inevitably use it. The roadways in the Greens Farms and Saugatuck areas are simply not designed to handle that level of heavy truck traffic. Given these limitations, restoring the existing bridge is the only responsible option. This bridge is owned by the town of Westport, and as such, the community should have the final say in its future. Beyond infrastructure concerns, the introduction of 18-wheelers would create significant traffic bottlenecks, particularly as large trucks struggle to navigate tight turns, ultimately worsening congestion rather than alleviating it. This area is a work-live-ride, transit-oriented district where safety and mobility are paramount. Increased truck traffic would directly undermine both, putting pedestrians, cyclists, and commuters at risk. Most importantly, it threatens to disrupt access to one of our town's most valuable assets, the train station and its surrounding area. We cannot afford to compromise safety and functionality in the heart of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since I asked if anyone wants a comment form, if anybody has filled out a comment form, you can hold it up after the next speaker. I will come pick it up as well. The next speaker is Ray Broadway? Brody, sorry, close.
My name is Ray Brody, and I'm a Westport resident. Not on any of the committees or anything like that, just a private citizen. But what I wanted to say is that we have to be careful we don't shoot ourselves in the foot, not changing or doing things we should be doing. The first thing I notice is with the no build and the rehabilitation plan is they're lifing it at 25 to 40 years. This bridge consideration's been in place for 25 years. This town doesn't want to go through this all over again in 25 years. Plus, the costs over 25 years would probably double. So, keep that in mind when you're thinking about the no-build and the rehabilitation. Secondly, on the no-build and the rehabilitation, well, first off, I'd also like to thank CONDOT for using the all-truss design. There was a lot of talk going around town for a long time that it would be a big concrete structure and, it wouldn't have the historical significance or look of the original Cribari Bridge, and that appears not to be true from their plans and what they've come up with. But the other thing is, on these first two items, the no-build and the rehabilitation, the bridge, as you can see from the pictures, is very, very weak, and they can't guarantee you when they'd have a failure or how they'd have a failure, but you could imagine if there was a failure on the Cribari Bridge, what the effect would be on the town and the surrounding area. I mean, it would be disastrous. They'd have to, try to almost completely rebuild the bridge to get it back open, which wouldn't accomplish anything. So I think the two plans for a new bridge that's wider and has the okay, that's wider and has the accommodation for bicyclists and pedestrians is a better way to go, because as you see in the plans, the narrowness of the bridge right now is a definite danger. If a car crashes on that bridge and there happens to be someone in those walking lanes or trying to come across on a bicycle or something like that, the injuries are going to be pretty serious, and it's not going to be pretty. So I think everybody was thinking along that if we didn't go with rehabilitation or no build, that we'd automatically stop the truck situation. Something else I want to explain and you need to think about. A lot of semis, 70-foot trucks, are loaded with things other than a box truck, and than the tall 14-foot box. And they can go under something that's 12-foot. And what we're trying to say as a community is we don't want any semis of that size on the bridge and on going onto Greens Farms Road. So I think keep these things in mind so that we don't, as I say, shoot ourselves in the foot. We want a good bridge, historic, and we want it free of semi-trucks, and we want it done as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joan Freimer? Close. I got the first names mostly right.
I'm going to lower this significantly. Hi. So I don't represent any organization, but I have lived on Imperial Avenue for over 55 years. And every Wednesday and Friday morning, early, I come down Imperial Avenue and attempt to make a left onto Bridge Street, going all the way on Greens Farms Road up to Fairfield. And the traffic is often dreadful. But what I am most concerned about, we've talked a lot about the environment. Part of the environment in Westport is our children. And when I take that ride, I see young children waiting for the school bus, and I worry about them if semis come down that road, because this state now allows them to come across whatever plan they have to replace Cribari Bridge. So I want you to keep that in mind. I don't think we can stand to have a bridge that allows any semis to come across Bridge Street. Thank you.
Thank you very much. David Mark Brown? Good. How are you?
Fine. All right. You just hold the sign and I'll pull them down when I need. Okay. I had to bring Vanna up here with me, and I got 10 minutes. I got to reduce to 3 minutes. My name is David Mark Brown. I've owned the Anna Dolan House at 12 Bridge Street since 1995. And I've remained friendly with the surviving widow from the Dolan McGill clan that built the property back in 1932. The house was built by a man who later became the bridge keeper for our later named Cribari Bridge. In addition to the house, the property, along with the riparian rights, extends via bucolic natural levee all the way to the Cribari Bridge platform and arm. About once a month, I stroll down this fluvial terrace to the drawbridge platform, and along the way, gather Dunkin' Donut containers and empty whiskey bottles. During these strolls, I observe cars and trucks exiting the bridge and accelerating around the blind curve as much as 40 miles per hour. Maybe as a result of their haste, every few months there's a 2-car or sometimes a 3-car fender bender at our Imperial Avenue T section in front of my Ann Dolan house. It often seems to me the only vehicles that obey the speed limits are Westport school buses. That said, there have been some recent crashes involving our school buses and cars, resulting at worst in only minor injuries and the cars getting the worst of it. So at present, Staples High School and our other town schools are far more fortunate than Tuscarora Valley High School in Ohio, where a few years back, an 18-wheeler failed to slow down and collided with their high school bus and caused a multi-vehicle chain reaction and fire resulting in 6 deaths and 18 injuries. Afterwards, Governor Mike DeWine said in an update near the crash site, "This is our worst nightmare when we have a bus full of children involved in a crash." Our hearts go out in prayers to all the families, all those who were on the bus. What you see here is our Westport High School bus making the turn from Imperial Avenue onto Bridge Street. If an 18-wheeler comes across that bridge and accelerates to 30 or 40 miles an hour, it would T-bone that bus. This is a scene from that crash in Ohio. I also had an image of the children, but I just did not want to put that up here tonight. There have been several collisions involving 18-wheelers and school buses have been reported across the U.S. this year alone, including major incidents with multiple children suffering serious and sometimes life-threatening injuries. And some years back, one of the deadliest school buses and truck crashes in U.S. history killed 18 children and a bus driver, and another crash resulted in 21 fatalities. We should all reflect for a moment on this.
You have reached your 3 minutes.
As this tragic and heartbreaking death toll equivalent matches our Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting.
Would you like to be called back up after all the first
Yeah, I just have a minute left. Can I steal a minute off of you?
You want to summarize?
Yeah, just summarize.
Go right ahead.
And respecting my friends at Westport's Conservation and Health Departments, in addition to the weight, let's not forget a big rig's load or contents, commonly referred to as freight or cargo. Our U.S. Department of Transportation classifies hazardous materials for big rig transport into 9 hazardous classes, including explosives. As we've noticed lately, we got a war going on, along with dynamite and fireworks, gases like propane and helium, flammable liquids like gasoline, oxidizers, poisons, radioactive materials, and corrosives. All this falls under the domain of a Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. In conclusion, we got to be careful what we wish for. We could Yes, a shiny new bridge, but we could also end up with this. And this. And this. Thank you for your time. Yeah, well, I could, but I actually wrote 10 minutes worth of stuff. I don't know.
I know, but you wrote it all, so do you want all of that to be submitted as the record?
Yeah, I could.
Sure. Do you want to just submit that to me? Or
Yeah, you can have it.
Or you
Yeah.
can do it all online.
There's a little bit of humor in there. But,
Oh, yeah, I
okay.
can definitely, I can submit
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Okay, thank you.
I know they transcribed all of it, but I will put this in the
Yeah,
record.
I mean, I can send it to you, too.
If you want to do that, you certainly can.
Yeah, okay, thanks
You
for your
have
time.
the QR code or the
Yeah,
email?
yeah, thanks for the minute.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mm.
The next speaker is Stephanie Ardrey.
My name is Stephanie Ardrey. I live on 24 Bridge Street. I also work on Saugatuck Avenue. So I am intimately familiar with the traffic patterns and the congestion of both Saugatuck and this particular road. I cross Bridge Street multiple times a day, both on foot with my dog and also in a vehicle. I've had children take the bus to Staples, crossing the road sometimes when it's dark out in the early hours in the winter. And I can say unequivocally that any option that permits 18-wheelers to go through this throughway, which unfortunately that's what it is. It has become an offshoot of 95A, and there's no changing that. But what we do have some control over is the nature of the traffic that we allow on those roads if we want to ensure the safety of our families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mitchell Rosa? Rosenfeller, sorry.
Good evening. My name's Mitchell Rosenfeld. We live on Ridge Drive. My wife has been a resident of this town since 1958. Her father was the tax assessor for the town of Westport for many years. Worked with Ray Baldwin to get Longshore Country Club on our books. There are a couple of holes in the logic or the presentation that was made by the Connecticut. Number one, the most burning question in my mind is why wasn't anything done about this bridge to mitigate deterioration to this extent since 1996? It has been going downhill nonstop with and we have years to go before any kind of a project can address this. So the likelihood that that bridge will collapse becomes higher every day of the week, and I see nothing on the part of the state that's addressing that issue. Secondarily, we have a wonderful resource in Westport called the Saugatuck. It is populated by elderly people who are part of the affordable housing picture of Westport. The truck traffic that will ensue in front of that will do nothing but increase the already ridiculous din that comes from 95 with the semis going by. I would invite anyone from the state to come to my house, sit in the backyard in the evening, and listen to the noise that we already enjoy coming from 95, including the racetrack, which is like Daytona, which is never policed properly by the state police. And I'm sure all the residents of Bridge Street have heard it. There are cars that fly through our area on a regular basis. The asbestos coming off of those trucks when they apply their brakes is already a health hazard. This is not an area to intensify traffic. It's an area to reduce traffic. And increasing that bridge to handle semis with people that really don't even know how to drive them. I happen to have been hit by one when we pulled over. The state police said, "I'm sorry, sir, but the driver doesn't speak English. I have to get one of my colleagues here to interpret." This is going on across the country. In addition, and finally, we have just gone through a reassessment in Westport, and all of those houses around this project will be negatively impacted. Nothing is being said about how long the mitigation is going to take. Nothing is being said about the cost overruns, which will inevitably be borne, and no one's saying where the money's coming from, how it's going to be spent, and the fact that you're going to add 30% to this. No one's talking about the appeals for the condemnation proceedings, which I'm sure are going to be right there. And we have one restaurant that's owned by someone who's very famous in the New York metropolitan area, in that area, and he has the resources to appeal if he's going to want to. It's going to be a negative, negative, negative all the way around. Do what you can to repair that bridge properly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ross Rokenhart? I'm sorry.
I'm Ross Burkhardt. I'm an RTM member from. Sorry. I might have to bend down a little. Yeah. I represent RTM District 3, and I think there is a number of other issues. I'm going to join Mr. Brody in saying that let's be careful about shooting ourselves in the foot. And I don't see where the rehabilitated bridge concept would really mitigate all of the traffic issues and problems that we're really talking about in Saugatuck. It's mostly cars. It's not 18-wheelers right now, but it is mostly cars, small trucks, and vans. So one of the things I've been asking to get done, and I don't know how we do it, but I really think that we need to step back and prepare and look at the traffic issues there, not throw our hands up and say that there's nothing we can do and just stop 18-wheelers from going over the bridge. I think I agree with that. I don't think 18-wheelers should belong on any of our local streets unless they're delivering something that they have to do. But the other concerns I've got that we really have got to talk about when we design this bridge is that, first of all, storm surges are going to become a fact of life in the future. Sea level rise is happening. Since Sandy, we've had at least 5 centimeters increase in the height of the sea level around here. And it's only going to get worse, even if we stopped the pollution that we get now. If everybody started driving electric cars and everybody had electric houses, we cannot design a bridge that is going to be subject to greater risk of being wiped out in a storm surge. We'll be left with only 2 bridges, local bridges in town, answering to all of our traffic needs. We've got to think bigger, and we've got to also, I say, that whatever design we come up with, the rehabilitation design or the new construction, we should be demanding that the result is something that we can live with aesthetically. It may be different than what's there now. I've spent a good part of my life doing historic rehabilitations, and I'm really very strongly in favor of doing that. But in this particular case, we've got other bigger and more equally important issues to deal with. And those include really looking at the bridge in terms of being able to make it much safer for those people who are crossing it, and much safer for people who are using it for bikes and other kinds of purposes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bonnie Edwards. I think I moved it down enough.
Hi, thank you. My name is Bonnie Edwards. I live in still lower. Okay. Thanks. Okay. My name is Bonnie Edwards. I live in Westport. And I just wanted to mention very quickly that I looked through the report, and beyond construction noise, the DOT in its report has not considered the new noise pollution that will be emanating from the bridge up and down the river and into surrounding neighborhoods if trucks are going over that bridge. We need to be aware of the fact that noise pollution, like air pollution, is a health hazard. And even if a noise pollution study is not required under the regulations, it should be considered in all DOT projects. Thank you.
Linda Prescard.
I'm short. Linda Prestegard, Roseville Road, Westport, Connecticut. Thank you for holding a public hearing today. This town absolutely appreciates being heard. I would like to point out, after reading the Environmental Assessment Programmatic Section 4F evaluation and Environmental Impact Evaluation, Rehabilitation Replacement of William F. Cribari Memorial Bridge report, that I believe that you have not evaluated or addressed several of the required pieces under the various statutes that you are complying with in this report. I would like to just address two of those issues, which have been addressed repeatedly here today. The Cribari Bridge is an individually listed bridge on the National Registry of Historic Places. It is located in a nationally designated historic district. The Cribari Bridge is therefore lawfully a historic site, and under Section 4F of the Federal Department of Transportation Act, it cannot be destroyed if there is a feasible and prudent avoidance alternative. I do not believe that your report has addressed this in any manner, much less a sufficient manner. How did the factor of a historic bridge get dropped from the purpose statement of this committee and this evaluation? How did that happen? This report also fails to address the impact of traffic. It is wholly inadequate, and I say this with all due respect. I read to you the sentence under on alignment placement alternative, preferred alternative, page 52 of this report. It states, however, the proposed improvements are not anticipated to generate new or additional truck traffic to and through the area. Since there are no improvements to the surrounding local roadway network beyond the immediate project area, truck drivers are more apt to continue to use I-95 or Route 1 to cross the Saugatuck River. I do not understand how this constitutes a traffic study. I do not understand, and I believe that you are obligated to assess the full impact of the various alternatives that you are offering in this environmental, what is it called again? We'll get the right name for the study. Environmental impact evaluation. Was that my time up? We cannot afford to become the fourth lane of I-95. It has been said repeatedly. We cannot afford to have a bridge that allows big trucks, and we cannot afford to lose our iconic historic bridge. All of these things can be managed by the creative, smart, probably brilliant minds of many engineers and other professionals that can, should, and will be working on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maggie Dahl?
Oh, good. I can't see you guys because I'm nervous. I took my glasses off. Hi, my name is Maggie Dalal. I live at 17 Bridge Street, and I am a stakeholder in this project. I have had so much more I wanted to add to this after hearing things like Valerie speak about the pollution and the buses exploding. I am a mom with 2 middle school children, so I can't wait for this project to get going. I support replacing the Cribari Bridge for safety, but I have not seen justification for expanding it to accommodate truck traffic. Can you clarify whether this roadway is actually designed for truck use and what specific standards require that change? Probably not, because my understanding is that the DOT and the AASHTO provide design standards as guidance, but these are not absolute mandates. Agencies can apply context-sensitive solutions or exceptions, especially in developed residential areas where Bridge Street is, so that projects can reflect local conditions. I understand the need to meet modern structural requirements, but designing the bridge to physically handle trucks is different from designing the roadway to function as a truck route. This corridor does not function as a truck route today. Bridge Street, which feeds the Cribari Bridge, is a narrow residential road with minimal shoulders and several bus stops. It is not designed for truck traffic, and expanding the bridge to allow trucks would push vehicles onto streets that cannot safely handle them. This creates new safety risks for pedestrians, cyclists, and children, including my 2 middle school children that have to cross Bridge Street every morning for the bus, and would worsen existing traffic hazards. Drivers already ignore the stop school buses. I hear the honk once a week, at least, where the drivers just don't stop. And I cringe sometimes watching my kids go out to get the bus. I've seen close calls, and just a few weeks ago, a car jumped the curb right at the edge of our property going into my neighbor's yard. My husband walks to work to the train station daily, and I worry about his safety also. Has the surrounding infrastructure on Bridge Street been evaluated as a corridor for a truck route? Additionally, you claim to be working with the community and wanting to serve our needs, but right around the corner in New Canaan, you have overseen a project on the Merritt that has led to years of significant disruption to residents, including noise at all hours of the night, vibration, dust, and environmental impacts, despite the community pleading for change, yet their pleas were unanswered. I am a stakeholder, and I was at a meeting last year, and I was told the data on traffic was last taken in, I think, 2017, before Waze and COVID. I had asked personally for a traffic study. Was that done? As a stakeholder, I feel uninformed and excluded from this design. You're asking the community to trust you, and yet you don't seem to be a community partner here, and certainly not in New Canaan. Please stop listening to the consultants you hired telling you to bigger is better, and I'm sure they want that big contract, and listen to the stakeholders. I implore you to please work with the community and implement a plan proposed like the adaptive rehabilitation alternative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Victoria Weil?
Hi guys, Victoria Wiley, District 4. I agree with, it sounds like 99% of the people in this room, that I don't want this bridge replaced and allowing truck traffic through it. I'd also like to point out the fact that in District 4 we have Greens Farms Road. Greens Farms Road right now is covered in litter. I don't know if that litter is coming off of I-95, which is also covered in litter, or if it's the fact that we have so much traffic coming off of I-95 with smaller trucks and the litter coming off of it. So I want to avoid any more of that by allowing these trucks into our neighborhoods. I appreciate the state coming here, but I think we're all wondering what the desires of the state are, what their goals are for our town. The urbanization of this town is turning this into what looks like a big garbage pit, and I want to stop that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sharon Wiley? Yeah. Did you want to sit over there?
Oh, no, I thought I could just stay there, but I guess not. Anyway. Hi, yes, a couple of things I've noticed this evening is that, number one, the state clearly wants lane number 5 to be Greens Farms Road. I guess their interest is more I-95 traffic than our town and the needs of our town folk, so that's clearly what they want. The other thing I noticed is that somebody made a point, perhaps you, made a point that NEPA and SEPA don't really need to do this at all, that they're kind of doing it because they're, I guess, trying to be politic or whatever, and make us think that we have some kind of say in this. But I have a sneaky feeling we don't have any say in this at all. I think they're going to do exactly what they want to do, because that's the trend of things. You may have noticed that we have 830G, 8002. All of these are state mandates. State mandates carry the day. The towns have no say anymore. And that just seems to be the trend of Connecticut right now. And when you're voting next time, think about who you're sending up there to Hartford, because that's why we have these things. We do not have any say as a town. These people are going to do exactly what they want to do, unless we get lawyers to look at 4F and see if we can sue them and say, this is historic, and therefore we have some rights there. Try that. Good luck with that. But anyway, while I have you here as a captive audience, CTDOT, could somebody clean the trash off of exit 17 on and off ramps? It is disgusting. It's embarrassing to come into this town anymore. And I've called you, sent emails, et cetera, no answer. Said I'd do it myself and was told I'd get a fine if I went with a garbage bag to pick it up myself, because it's unsafe. Meanwhile, some guy can stand there asking for money every day and nobody seems to think he's unsafe. Whatever. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ben Meyer. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Ben Meyer, Bridge Square, one of the owners of Bridge Square and Rizzuto's properties. Along with other Westporters, we at Bridge Square and Rizzuto's share the same worries about allowing unrestricted 18-wheelers passing through Saugatuck and Greens Farms neighborhoods. If the state bridge can't restrict it, then Westport local roads should post no through tractor trailers during rush hour on, say, Greens Farms Road. Bridge Square is directly adjacent to Cribari Bridge, so that we have an interaction with some of the traffic, how our entrances work. So we very much request, and I think Luis has been very responsive, as is the mayor, to listening to us, that we keep our entrances, because that promotes traffic flow through a very, very busy intersection. My office overlooks it, and who are the users of this intersection? There's a lot of young people. There's 10-year-olds biking through the parking lot. There's mothers, fathers, and nannies walking their kids' strollers across the bridge every day. There's rowers that are teenage rowers that come in groups and cross these intersections going to Dunkin' Donuts or to Kawanai. They're all using this intersection, and it's hard to imagine large trucks going through it at any rate. Our crossing guard, Bob, is daily, he tells us, is brushed by cars going through, and this is as is currently at the rush hours. So I just want to support those speaking against the trucks, but I do believe also that our representatives and the RTM and our neighborhood groups are very well positioned to advocate for these things, especially the throughput of traffic, but safe throughput of traffic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tom Broadbent.
Thank you. I'm Tom Broadbent. I've been a landlord here for 31 years. I hold 2 Historic District Commission awards for sensitive renovation. I really care about the history and look of this town. I'm also a realtor with William Pitt Sotheby's, and realtors want our neighbors' property values to go up. We just survived the onslaught of the Hamlet project. A very important aspect and asset of this town is charm. Another thing about Westport is a lot of us commute. Traffic over the Cribari Bridge has gotten heavier and heavier. We can't have heavy flow plus tractor trailers to compete with citizens that are just trying to get to work. No question the bridge needs work. It does. The DOT people I've met here tonight have seemed very smart and reasonable. Adaptive rehabilitation sounds like a good idea. Please consider it. Make your option charming. Make it stronger, fine. But don't put an ugly bridge here that checks federal boxes and doesn't give Al's Angels anywhere to hang holiday lights. Help us keep Greens Farms from being the 4th lane of I-95. Please help us. Don't hurt us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Paul Epstein? Paul had to go really early. He left. But he and myself, I'll be the next on the state hearing. We represent the building that we're all talking about, 35. Do you want to speak? You want to come up and speak? I'm just saying, I'd rather defer to somebody who wants to speak again, like Mr. Leopold, because we were going to say everything that everyone said. Okay. You were going to add about the fire department. Have you thought about when they need to get out of the fire station when there's like 18-wheelers lined up there? Do you want to come up and ask? No. I will ask if anybody who has already spoken wants to speak again. I want to give the people who signed up to speak at least a chance to speak the first time. But then I will let anybody who wants to speak again come back up. Francis Henkels? Francis? Anybody know Francis? No? Okay. Harriet Turbell. Anybody know Harriet? Okay. Yuri? Could be. Huh?
Yeah, that's me.
That's who I called.
All right, thank
I'm sorry, I'm trying on the names. You're next.
All right, thank you. My name is Yuli Aronson, and I rebuilt Cribari Bridge 35 years ago. So that's my connection. I also live in Saugatuck. I know a little bit about bridges, and I understand the report that you put together. I also understand that the community does not want trucks. I'm assuming you got that, right? So a few issues. The bridge needs to be replaced. It needs to be widened, and it needs to be built higher, right? Those are the criteria that you have. And it cannot have trucks, right? So how do we do this? We don't need to solve the truck problem with the bridge. We can install gantry signs that will limit the height. We can install signs with cameras and tickets. So what, the cameras don't work? The gantry sign doesn't work? Does everybody know what a gantry sign is? It looks like the truss on the bridge that limits the height. So you can't go under it. Okay, it's a structure just like the bridge. So it can be done. If the DOT doesn't do it, Town of Westport can do it. It's a low-hanging fruit. Okay, so let's stay with the proposals that we have. The proposal that I see for the on alignment replacement while raising the bridge, have we looked at the geometry? It's 46 feet from the intersection of Riverside Avenue and the west abutment. What happens when you lift the west abutment? What happens to the slope? It goes up. Can be done. Okay, so that option, I believe, when you look at it, is going to be out the window. So now you go off alignment. And if you raise the bridge off alignment, which is probably the only option, you may want to consider a fixed bridge as opposed to a movable bridge because it would be less expensive. And you can achieve the same thing. And you would not need a temporary bridge. You can build that bridge first and then take the other bridge down. Now what happens with the trusses that everybody loves? You can put the trusses on a new bridge. And I understand that, and actually we've done that. Because that's the only thing remaining from the historical bridge are the trusses. We took them off last time. We sandblasted them, we repainted them, we put them back together, and now they cannot withstand the wind load. Right? It works really well. So I think that you're in a very early stage of doing the project. I really would urge you to consider the town's request of no trucks. I see you shaking your head with an agreement, right? So we have an agreement, the town, right? No trucks. I got them to buy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jeff Weezer? Sir.
Hello, I'm Jeff Weezer, District 4, representative of the RTM and moderator of the RTM. You've heard it all. Thank you for coming tonight. I listened to this. I was traveling till a little bit ago and listened to this, and it seemed like this is very location specific. The audience, you have a great audience here now. Dissipated a little bit, but it was a great audience from the start, and there are a lot of people here. And it sort of sounds like it's location specific along Bridge Street. I'm the moderator of the RTM, and we met in a committee meeting a few weeks ago, and the one thing that came up was the town often has difficulty speaking with a single voice. So we talked about that for 3 hours and decided, okay, one way to do that is to have an RTM meeting where we had a sense of the meeting, which typically isn't, it has been described as toothless, and it is toothless because you guys are in charge. We recognize that, but we thought it was a good opportunity to speak with a single voice. And it's not just Bridge Street, it's not just Districts 1 and 9 and 4. We had the whole RTM. We spoke about this for another 2.5 hours or so. And we voted. There were a lot of people not there. It was the only thing on the agenda. 4 people abstained, and 1 person voted against for whatever reasons that they had. But of the 21 people voted, 20 people, 95% of the elected representatives in town, voted for what you've been hearing tonight. It's not location specific. The entire town is invested in the Saugatuck area and ensuring that it not be diminished. And so we said in our resolution that the bridge be restored, rehabilitated, or replaced as soon as practicable. And then we said any upgrade should at a minimum maintain or evoke the historic design of the current structure. The finished structure should be wide enough to include pedestrian and bike lanes and a height restriction to ensure that it will not provide access to semi-tractor trucks. We recognize you've got to design what you've got to design. We came up with things that we could all agree on as in unity: no trucks, pedestrians, bike lanes, and we would love it if that's what we ended up with. So that's the whole town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other first-time speakers? Please come up and give your name for the record.
How you doing? My name's Rob Evans. I'm a representative. I'm not a representative. I'm a resident of Westport. I live at Saxon Lane, which was mentioned and appreciated, right off of Bridge Street. I'm a parent of a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. We stand on that corner, so the graphics hit home for me very much. I came here to listen. I have not been very involved or as involved as I would like to be. I walk over that bridge to go to the city for work most of the time. We pushed our kids over a stroller. My kids ride their bike, their scooters. I have nothing new to say that other people haven't said, but I do think there's some serious considerations here that aren't being met from the presentation. Also, thank you so much for listening to all this. I know it's not easy to sit here and hear people come up over and over again. But with that said, there are a lot of things it sounds like that can be done. I will write something more formal later because this is not how I normally like to speak. But please take into consideration, I think somebody mentioned the Hamlet. There's a lot of debate within the town. There seems to be no debate right now in this town. There is one thing that we all want, and it's just no trucks on that street. Thank you very much.
Are there any other first-time speakers that would like to speak? Please raise your hand. Please come on up. Please just state your name so we can transcribe it.
I'm John Beckwith. I've lived in Westport for 10 years. I'm not representing any organization. I do think there are a couple of topics that I would like to enter, and I'm also going to write something more formally. The first is, I think we're conflating 2 things, traffic calming, and it sounds like we need a belt and suspenders approach to traffic calming. I only drive through that neighborhood about twice a day for the train station, and I don't tend to go during rush hour, but it's clear there's a major traffic problem that people are concerned will be exacerbated by the potential of truck traffic. I happen to know a little bit about how trucks navigate, and I don't think that it's a very practical problem that we're going to see a ton more trucks, but there's clearly a traffic problem. It sounds like there's some barriers that can be put up, gantry barriers or something like that. So we should have an all-of-the-above approach to traffic calming, but should be a separate matter from the bridge design. And the second concern that I have, and I live near Roseville and US 1, Post Road, how long the process takes. The off-alignment option does not require construction of a temporary bridge, which will save, I heard informally, about 1 construction season to complete the project, and because it allows the existing bridge to essentially be the temporary bridge. So I strongly favor that as someone who occasionally drives over it. And if I lived in the neighborhood, I would think having a construction project for 1 year shorter in my neighborhood would actually be something that I would like. So I wanted to bring that topic up because no one else had brought it up. Thank you.
Is there anybody, sorry, I'm short. Is there anybody else who hasn't spoken yet that would like a chance to speak for the first time? Anybody who has spoken that wants to speak a second time for an additional 2 minutes? Come on up. Just state your name so she
Ray
can.
Brody again.
So she can transcribe it. Perfect.
Ray Brody. I have a question of the Caltrans people. You know, we've heard here tonight quite a bit. It mentioned that there's a 4th lane to I-95. I've had a work I did as a consultant and an engineer on a project up towards Milford, and I had to transit I-95 every afternoon in that heavy congestion traffic, and I observed it pretty well. And I think there's a problem that the CONDOT addressed about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. The problem is the interchange for 8 North off of I-95. That is the bottleneck. That's what backs it up all the way down here into, sometimes it goes all the way down as far as Stamford. But I just wondered, does CONDOT still have any plans for, to move forward on that interchange? Because it's a nightmare. That's the one that has the big loop.
There's a Pell study taking place right now for that whole area of 95.
Okay, yeah, because if you want to cure this I-95 problem, that'll do a lot of it. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other second-time speakers that would like to come up for an additional 2 minutes? If there are no further comments, I will now close tonight's hearing. On behalf of Commissioner Garrett Uclito, I'd like to thank you for coming and expressing your views tonight. Please remember that you have until April 17th, 2026 to submit any written postmark comments to the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Thank you for coming and have a good evening. And if you filled out any comment forms, I will be at the comment table so you can drop them off there.